Hello there. I wanted to share a couple of thoughts today about wholesaling. I was talking with Liz this morning, and she was saying to me, there is a lot of fear out there from the ladies that she hears in the community about what's going on with wholesaling. Should I even learn the strategies? Is this going to work? Is this going to be something that is going to be obsolete? Is this something that is illegal? Right? So she was telling me about all these fears in the community. So I started rationalizing with her about it. And she's like, you know what? You really need to put it out there and let everybody know what your thoughts are. So, so if you don't know about my background, I've been wholesaling right now for 4 decades. I actually started wholesaling before it was even called wholesaling. It was called flipping contracts back at the end of the 80s. And the thing is this about wholesaling. The way I've always looked at it is as long as there is an economy where people are going to buy something and resell it, make a profit, wholesaling is the same concept. The strategy doesn't change. The way you do it does. Okay, I repeat that. The strategy is not going to change. The way you do it does. Okay. The thing is, online businesses, Amazon, eBay, anything else, all these people, what they do is they know where to buy a widget at a certain price and then sell it at a higher price, right? This is what brick and mortar businesses do. This is what anything does in this world. Stock market, anything else. You buy at a price and you make a profit when you sell at a higher price. That including real estate, right? If you buy a home, fix it up and sell it, you make a profit. So wholesaling is really technically you're buying a contract and selling the contract. Now remember what I said, the strategy doesn't change, but how you do it does, right? So with everything going on out there with a lot of states requiring to be licensed or saying you have to do things a certain way, the only way they're doing it, the reason they're doing it is because they want to legalize this. If you want to go out there and do this transaction, do it in a way that's legal. Do it in a way that is not going to hurt anybody, right? There's been so many fly-by-nights real estate investors and so many out there that have abused the strategy. They have done things that were not on the up and up. They didn't put contracts in. They misrepresented themselves. They said they would own the property, whatever. There's been a lot of lies and a lot of miscommunication. There are people that have ended up in jail because of fraud, of money laundering and so forth. So, they have to legalize this. And there's nothing wrong with that. Personally, I think all 50 states should require people that wholesale to have a license. And there's nothing to be afraid of. I've been licensed in 3 different states. There is nothing to be afraid of being a license. Yes, you have to study. You have to know the terms. You have to know the terminology. And you can do this all online. There are a ton of websites where you can go there and pay $200-300, go through all the course and take your quizzes. And then you take the state exam. And you can take the state exam as many times as you want to. It's a good thing, right? At the end of the day, there are going to be probably a lot less people wholesaling because people that are not interested in doing things on the up and up, or maybe they're scared of test. Nobody likes to test an exam, but they're not that bad, trust me. So the thing is, they don't want to do it. They don't want to go underneath a license. They're not going to do it. And therefore, there's going to be a lot of less competition out there. When I started, quote unquote, wholesaling in the beginning of the 90s, what I actually started doing is the way that they want you to do it now. So when you put a property under contract back then, I was actually creating a contract and then a contract for deed. And so basically telling the owner, when I fulfill certain requirements, I'm going to give you the deed to the property. Requirements being that I would sell the contract for deed and pay him off, or refinance the contract for deed. Back then you could refinance it and then pay him off. Honestly, a lot of the time I would go into this contract not knowing if I was going to do a contract for deed or if I was if I was going to refinance it or sell it. I just created a contract for deed. To me, it was a normal practice with a sale contract. And what does a contract for deed do? It puts you into an owner finance situation with the seller. you pay the seller maybe $500 a month, whatever it is, but for as long as you have the contract for deed, you also are kind of owner financing it. So that gives you the right to do something with the contract for deed. They will spell it out in the contract that you can sell it, you can refinance it, you can do whatever you want with this particular property and contract. That's how we did it. There's nothing new there. We write the contract, we write the contract for deed. So now in states where they're going to require to do it, the only one I know that's very tight about this is South Carolina. But basically, they call it, somebody out there is out selling a program for $8,000, say, they teach you how to do in South Carolina, and blah, blah, blah. You have to do an installment contract. That's what they're doing. You create a contract, sales contract. Once you agree to the sales contract price and term, you create a contract for deed. And the good thing about the seller is that they get a little bit of money, even if it's $500. But that will give you 1, 2, 3 months to sell the property. And now you do it legal. You have an owner financing arrangement, and now you have rights to the property. So that's what it does. So installment contract, contract for deed. So you see that the strategy doesn't change while you do it changes. Over the years, the only thing that we kind of cut short is that we started doing contracts and then selling the contract, doing A to B, B to C, and we would skip the contract for deed part. Which honestly, I never kind of liked that, because I thought that could be some type of confusion there, a misrepresentation. So if you do have an issue with thinking that wholesaling is illegal, if you have worries that in your state is becoming, very frowned upon, then maybe go back to the route I used to do it, with a contract and an installment contract, and do an owner financing situation, even for 1 month, 2 months, as long as it tells you to sell the property. So now you see here, there's nothing to be afraid of. Number one, yes, wholesaling is here to stay. As long as people are going to sell on Amazon or eBay or have brick and mortar stores where they buy things cheaper and sell it for higher, which is obviously how the world has been for thousands of years, you're just doing that with real estate, right? And there are always going to be their owner of properties that don't want to know to do with their properties. They don't have the money to fix it up. They don't have the money to keep up the mortgage. They don't want the property. Maybe they inherited. There's 1,000 reasons why people don't want a property, right? And you're here just buying that widget, which is real estate, and sell it at a higher price. And the only way that you're changing it is how you do it. And look at it at the bright side of it. So look at the positive side. You're going to do it legally. You're going to do it on the up and up. You're creating the right instrument. No more cutting corners. And you're going to be here for life. Not many people have been in real estate for as long as I have and are still active. And there are 2 reasons. Either they died or they're doing things that were not legal and they had to get out of the business. And so I'm here to tell you how to do it. And as long as you do it, trust me, there's not going to be any real estate commission, no attorney, nothing that's going to push you out, because you're going to do it the right way. And it has been done forever that way. So there is nothing to worry about. There is always going to be a need. Real estate, widgets go in and out of Amazon and eBay, right? The latest fad. Real estate is never going to be the latest fad. People are always going to need a place to stay. There is always going to be the transaction. You go back to the times before even Jesus was born, right? There is always this exchange of property. And you're here facilitating the property. And if you want to represent the seller, you need to put some instrument there that lets you represent it. Like owner financing, contract for deed, installment agreement. That's it. That's the only thing you have to add to the mix to make this 100% legal. Okay? Hopefully this helps you. And the thing is, it's always going to be a business in demand, because you're always going to have rehabbers. You're always going to have landlords. You're going to be a rehabber lender yourself. You're going to look for property that are undervalued. You can bring them up. So you're actually creating a win-win situation for everybody. So you have, honestly, kind of a duty, if you understand this business the way I do, to go out there and do it, because you're going to help people. You're going to help bring the properties up to their true value. You're going to help people have a home. You're going to help homeowners to get out of a situation that they don't want to be into, and you're changing lives. And this is all it's all about. Okay, hopefully this helped you and inspired you to understand wholesaling and put it in a new light. And if you don't like, I don't call it wholesaling personally, I call it flipping contracts. I don't call myself as a wholesaler. I call myself as an investor working with our investors, because wholesaling for me is that, like, what does it mean even, right? I don't like the term. So that's my opinion and thoughts for the day. Take care.